Hey, are you looking to find out what it takes to rank at the top of Google? Follow me along in this weekly series where each week I'll walk you through what we have found out here at SERPWOO through our billions of data points, what it actually takes to rank at the top of Google. And this isn't generic vanilla advice that you're going to hear from other SEO pundits. This is something we do each week, and we highlight the differences of what it takes each week to rank on the top of Google through millions of keywords, hundreds of millions of URLs, and billions of data points. We're also looking at thousands of SEO factors, and the goal is that every week to find out what changes, but more importantly, what stays the same so that you understand what's actually core to help you rank at the top of Google. Hey, and thanks for joining me on this week's edition of the podcast. I'm your host, Jason Brown, the co-founder of SERPWOO and inventor of SERP tracking. Now, you'll want to watch this whole video because at the end, I actually go over some interesting things we found out about link anchors. But go ahead and stick around, wait till the end of the podcast. I'll go over that in this video, but let's go ahead and jump in to what we found. I didn't do one of these videos last week because I needed to take some time off, but let's jump into it and I'll show you what I found. So what you're seeing here is our volatility report. Now, I did have somebody make a comment that this is the part of the video where they yawn and go to sleep and they think it's boring. But it's really important you guys understand this. Now, there's other tools that kind of similar do what we do here with our volatility tool. Let me see if I can make this a little bit more pleasing to the eyeball here. Yeah, like I said, there's a few other tools that do what we do similar. There's Moz Weather, there's Algoroo, there's SEMrush Sensor. There's a few other tools that kind of give you a volatility breakdown. The problem with those tools is they only use a subset of data. One tool only uses keywords, and I'll show you. Another just uses like 1,000 keywords. Another one, it's, something about each of these tools has a limit. What's a little different is SERPWOO uses all of our keywords. So all of the keywords in our database, which is multiple millions, we actually look at those changes and make this graph. It's not just one country. It's not a small set of data. It's not just e-commerce only. It's everything. And the reason why this is important, where, I got the comment where the other guy was like, this is the boring part of the video. What's important to understand is this is all data, not a subset, which I just talked about. But number two, this is going to help you identify what's an algorithm update, what's a manual penalty, or what's an error, okay? So what I'm going to talk about here is this. Anytime we're above 15 on this scale, I start to look at this as maybe a potential update. I'm not saying it is an update or it is a major change, but I start looking for that. And then once we get to 16, 17, 18, I know that this is update area, okay? Again, this is based on all of our keywords. And the reason why that's important is we never see anything that is 40, okay? Getting above 20 is rare for SERPWOO. So when I log in and I see 40 and 40 and almost 45, and then we get to this day, it's 22, that's going to cause me concern. And if I'm a SERPWOO user and I look at this daily, it's going to cause concern for me too, because I'm going to be used to seeing scores that are between 14 and 18, okay? Knowing that when we get to 16, 17, 18, possible algorithm update, maybe a manual penalty within my industry or my keywords, but seeing 40s and 20s, way out of line. Big problem, okay? And what you find is in other tools, they don't talk about this. Moz Weather, Algoroo, SEMrush Sensor. So what happens is when I see these numbers, I'm actually going into the back end of SERPWOO, me and my partner, and we're trying to identify what the problem is. And what we noticed was this wasn't an algorithm update, okay? This was essentially Google changing the HTML on the SERP pages. And if you didn't know, most of these tools that you use that do rank tracking or do SERP tracking, the feature that we invented here at SERPWoo, they actually scrape the Google SERP result pages. And if they don't scrape it, they're buying data from a third party who does scrape it. And what happens when your scraper is set to look for specific HTML and that changes? It makes wild fluctuations. It gets wrong data. And then you have overages like this in here. And then people like SERPWoo come out. And like I said in our YouTube Shorts video, again, if you're not subscribed to our channel, you're not getting our shorts, then you missed it. We came out and said, this is not an algorithm update. Quit running around like Chicken Little screaming about another algorithm update, like what some people did actually do. This is just an HTML update that had to be corrected, whether within the coding of these different programs or, in this case, maybe some of it being rolled back by Google. But you didn't hear that from MozWeather, SEMrush Sensor, Algoroo, or any other tool, actually. You did not get that information. You only got it here at SERPWoo. But if you had been a user of SERPWoo and watched this volatility, you would have known something was up. It was not an algorithm update, and you would have been able to react and stay calm and not fly off the handle or question. Or if your boss were to come to you and saying, hey, we're seeing data from MozWeather that there's an update today, you could have said, well, no, actually, I seen the data in SERPWoo and it's just a HTML update. It's not an algorithm update. So you would have been safe. That's why I like to point this out. Now, this is like an extreme case, obviously, but as you can see, things got back to normal. We're under 14 by July 3rd. We go into the July 4th weekend, obviously still under 14. And now we're starting to ramp back up. We crossed 15 yesterday. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's an algorithm update, but this is where I start paying attention. I'm not paying attention when it's 13 or 14. And today, which isn't technically over, we're creeping into 17. Now, does that mean an algorithm update? No, it could be repercussions, rollbacks, changes from the HTML changes that we've seen here at the end of June. But definitely if this lasts tomorrow or ramps up higher tomorrow, this could mean that there's another rollout. It doesn't have to be named by Google. This happens a lot, either within specific industries. There's unnamed updates. There's tons of things that always happen that you need to be aware of. That's why this screen is so important, because when we go into our analysis on the next screen for Excel, if we see changes of what factors are helping to rank, this kind of gives us that signal, that canary in the coal mine type of warning. So let's switch over to the Excel file here. All right, so what you're looking here is this week's factors that I was able to monitor. Again, we're looking at thousands of SEO factors, but we're only showing you what hits the top 20. And many times what hits the top 20 is overlapping. It might be variations, but it's overlapping, which is why you don't technically see 20 factors here. You might only see 9, you might only see 7, because maybe keywords in H2, for an example, is its own factor, but H2 is also representative in a second factor that might be keywords in H1 through H3, which obviously includes an H2. So what's the most important? Showing up in both factors, it's the H2, so that's why I listed here, and you don't see another full set of 20, that you're only seeing a subset of 20, even though we're looking at the top 20. So let me scroll down here so you can see this just a little bit better here. So what you're going to see here is, give me 1 second here. So what you're going to see here is keywords in H2. I mean, that's always showing up. That's in multiple factors that contains keywords and headings. Keywords in H2 every single week on this series. I actually reported about this years ago, where keywords in H2 was one of the most important elements that has longevity of any SEO factor, above title, above H1. So I kind of knew going into this series that H2 would always be present. Keywords and sentences shouldn't be anything new to anybody. This has came up a lot in these analysis, not as much as H2, but it's hanging in there just like anything else. Keywords and titles. Now, I've got this marked in red for a reason. I'll jump back to that here in a second. Page size. This also goes along with body tag size. This goes into HTML size. So page sizes is kind of the generic default here. That's why we're seeing page size here. Keywords in H1. That comes up a lot. And then outbound links, whether that's do follow, no follow, whether it's HTTPS. It's all about outbound links. Now, what has dropped out? H3 has dropped out this week. Keywords and meta description has dropped out. Images with alt text has dropped out. We also kind of dropped out with title X words. I actually need to add that back in. That's this one right here. I actually need to add that back in. So let me do that here, because that is why I labeled this and read this keywords and titles, because it's not just about I repeated this in another episode. This isn't about just the keywords that you're going for in the titles. It has to do with what else is showing in the title. Extra keywords, extra relevant keywords pertaining to that topic. Think about things like the top 20 2021 reviews, those extra keywords in that title. It's not just, if you're going after blue widgets, it's in the title. It's things like the word best. It's things like the year. It's things like review, compare, top. It's those extra keywords, especially if you're doing things like reviews, if you're in e-commerce. Maybe if you're in e-commerce, it's the word cheapest. But those extra keywords is what is showing up. That's why I marked this in red. I did forget to put the extra words in for this week, but I just did it. That is what's showing up. Now, when I talked about H3s dropping out and meta description dropping out and images with alt text dropping out, that doesn't mean that they're not important, okay? That just means it didn't hit the top 20. Top 20 is kind of where I have my threshold. So while these did drop out of the top 20, keywords in H3 could have been 23rd, okay? Keywords in meta description could have been 24th. Images with alt text could have been 22nd, okay? It's still important, okay? It's still a high factor. It just didn't break the top 20. Breaking into the top 20 for on-page SEO is what this series is about here. So before I tell you about what we found out, please take the time, if you found this interesting, if there's something new that you hadn't thought about before, or if you actually want to see more detailed analysis where we get into more detailed topics than just on-page SEO, maybe we break it down per industry, per intent, then please like, subscribe, comment, watch another video, because that's the only way this series gets better, is with more engagement from you guys. So go ahead and take a second to like, comment, subscribe, maybe queue up another video to watch after this. And then when I see that happen, I'll go ahead and get into more detailed on-page analysis. Maybe with off-page stuff, maybe we get into different industries, per intent. Maybe we just do this for e-commerce. Maybe we do this for lead generation. The door is open. But go ahead and do that now, and then that's going to give us the fuel to go ahead and push this series further. So let me go ahead and tell you what we found out about link text and link anchors. So if you've been in SEO for any amount of time, if you've done any SEO work, you've heard of the name Pasha. If you haven't heard his first name, you've definitely heard of his handle, Grindstone. Now, Grindstone is one of the legends in the SEO world. I won't get into how he ranked a certain co-founder of Moz for a dog blanket, but I'll digress into that later. But Grindstone is famous for doing some really deep analysis and always being correct with it. especially when it comes to SEO with links, with rankings on Google. He's ranked a lot of big brands. He loves it when you direct message him on Twitter or on forums. So go ahead and feel free with all your questions on that. But Pageseo was able to find out through analysis that he does for himself and for clients and through his link building skills that essentially what's happening now is people are being too comfortable with their link anchors, either because they're using exact match, maybe they're using partial matches. And essentially, unless you're getting a link from a very strong website and also your website is also very strong, you should really take it easy with that link anchor. Most of the people that have recently lost their rankings was, per Pageseo's words, 100%. All of those cases that he's looked into, which were a lot, because of link text, okay, and the bad use or comfortable use of exact match or strong partial match, you should really, really take it easy. So if you're getting backlinks from a strong website or from a weak website, and your website is not strong, it's not an authority, it doesn't have longevity, it's not, it's basically not one of the best, okay? It's a weak website. You should be taking it real easy with your link text. Essentially, you shouldn't be doing any exact matches or potentially partial matches either. You should just have that link be naked, not even have an anchor. That would probably be best. But if you are wanting to go with something, say you're you're a strong website and you're getting a strong backlink from another strong website, potentially looking at wording for your link text that maybe isn't an exact anchor. It doesn't have to be a naked link either, but maybe something that is semi-related, like something that you would have else in your content. Now, you'll have to read his Twitter thread. I'm not going to take everything away from Pageseo here. That would be doing him wrong. But you can go find Grindstone SEO on Twitter, and you can actually see his post that he made and read through it to get more of that information. So thanks to Pageseo. Go to Grindstone, go to Grindstone SEO, look up his Twitter there. I'll actually drop a link into the first comment and pin it here just to help you out, and then read what he has to say. You can actually kind of go through his Twitter feed to find more gems and nuggets. I'm sure he'll appreciate it if you direct message him. So go ahead and fire off all the questions that you have to him. And if you've learned anything, please go ahead, watch another video after this from us, and I'll catch you next week. Thanks and goodbye.